Hello and thank you for tuning into this Writing at Welton St Mary's instructional video. Based on a recent parent survey, it was noted that parents would like more information about how writing is taught at Welton St Mary's and how to support your child with their writing at home. Throughout this video, we'll be discussing why writing is important, what our intentions are at Welton St Mary's when it comes to your child's writing. We'll be looking at our writing process and breaking that down into individual steps, as well as sharing strategies that you can use to support your children at home. First of all, we need to begin with our writing intent. What do we want our children to be able to do as writers? Well, through our writing curriculum, we aim for our children to understand the value that the ability to write well has on not only their lives while at school, but beyond. We aim to equip our children with relevant, useful vocabulary that they can contextualise and play with to enhance their writing. We aim to provide the children with meaningful models for their writing before showing them how these models are crafted as a writer. We do this by unpicking the big ideas behind the text, modelling how to craft that piece of writing sentence by sentence, and giving the children the opportunity to mirror this process before applying it independently. We aim for our children to see the value in careful planning and critical editing in order to organise and enhance their written work before publishing a piece of writing that they can be proud of. Ultimately, we want to develop children who can use writing as an effective tool for communication. So why writing? Well, we know that writing is an area of the curriculum that some children find incredibly difficult. In his book, Closing the Writing Gap, Alex Quigley likens it to a game of chess. It's a complex process that involves many different and calculated moves. So what we need to do is teach the children how to make these moves for themselves. Millions of adults leave schools struggling to read and write, and this proves to be a limiting factor for school success, but not just success at school, success beyond school as well. We know that the ability to write is crucial for children to be able to access the wider curriculum, so not just in their English lessons, we're thinking history, geography, art, DT and beyond. As the children move through the school, writing does get more difficult, but what we can do is support the process, that writing process, by breaking it down into smaller, more manageable chunks, and we'll discuss those chunks later on in this video. But what we can use is the simple view of writing as a structure to help us to gain a better understanding of how to teach and support our children with writing, which we will explore in the next section. As you can see, the diagram on this section shows the simple view of writing. It's split into three main sections with working memory at the core. So the first section, we're thinking about transcription, which is our handwriting, typing and spelling. In order to be successful writers, children need to form their letters correctly, both lowercase and capital. They need to know where and how to join their letters, and also use what they learn in active spelling and read writing phonics to make informed spelling choices. At the top we can see composition, so this is our ideas, words and sentences. So in this stage we're starting to think more about genre and making sentence choices and vocabulary choices that match the genre and hold the reader's interest. And on the bottom right corner we can see executive function, so that's planning, motivation and reviewing their writing. So this is for children's personal control centre that helps them to plan, sustain the reader's attention and make the right choices, and maybe going back and editing and reviewing the choices that they've made after the writing process has finished. So daily immersion into writing, so practicing writing each day will allow the children to pull all of these three things together and become more fluent and more accurate writers. So those short bursts or longer bursts of writing that give the children the opportunity to practice all three of these things will help benefit their writing and also start to free up their working memory when they do so. When it comes to writing at Welton St Mary's, we follow an agreed structure called the writing cycle as a process for effective writing teaching. As you can see, there are 6 main parts to this writing cycle that begin at the top with the vocabulary and the hook lesson. In this lesson, we would introduce the new writing genre to the children and we'd get them buzzing about it, we'd generate that excitement before teaching them specific words that they will need to use in order to be successful in this piece of writing. After that, we move on to the model text, where we show the children what a good one looks like. We investigate this together, we explore it, and we pick it apart to kind of figure out why this is a really successful model and what's so good about it, and also think about what we can use from this model text to help the children in their independent writing. Following that, we move on to spelling, punctuation and grammar skills. This is where we either teach the children new SPAG skills that they need to be successful within their writing, or rehearse skills that the children already know, which again will help them to be successful in their independent write. After this, we move on to the shared write, where we show the children and work together with the children to craft a piece of writing. So we're showing them the moves that they need to be successful writers, practicing writing together to kind of get the feel for what that successful piece of writing will look like and feel like. After this, we start to move on to the planning stage, where the children plan their own piece of writing based on the shared write, based on the model, before independently writing their own independent piece. We then give the children the opportunity to edit what they have written, so to go back to look at it again to make changes to their writing before publishing their final piece of written work. Now, although each of these parts of the writing cycle are independent in nature, they all work together to help the children to become successful independent writers. So, for example, in the shared write, although we're crafting a piece of writing together, we're going to be going back to those SPAG skills. We're going to be leaning on the model text, using those good ideas to help support our writing, and trying to fit in those words that we taught in the vocabulary lesson. So we're picking all of those parts up at each stage to build towards independence and the children being successful writers. And every so often, the order of this teaching sequence might change. So you might move a couple of these elements around based on the complexity of what the children are writing. But within each unit of writing at Welton St Mary's, each one of these 6 stages will be followed to allow the children to be successful in their writing. In order to understand the writing cycle in a bit more detail, what we're going to do now is break down each section into its individual parts and just kind of look at how, why and what we do to support the children with their writing. So the first section was the vocabulary and the hook lesson. So each new genre will begin with a hook, and this is where we're setting the scene to generate some excitement, some interest about the genre, and basically get the kids buzzing for what they're going to be writing about. And this might not always take place in the classroom. It could be an experience, it could be based on a trip that the children have been on or something that they've done. It could be based on a film, a book, anything that we can use to get the children buzzing to write. Vocabulary is also taught at this stage, so this is where we teach the children words that we want them to use in their writing but they might not already know. So some of the words that we teach the children would have seen before or heard before but might not necessarily know what they mean, and some of them might be completely new. When we do this, we use a mix of tier 2 and tier 3 words. Tier 3 words are those really subject-specific words that are quite tricky to understand, so need to be taught. And tier 2 words are those transferable words that we can use across a multitude of different subjects. So we teach the children what these words mean, how to use them in a sentence, and basically give them repeated exposure to these throughout the whole teaching of writing. So it's not like we're just explore them in this lesson and then leave them alone. We'd come back to these words again and again. We'd write them, we'd save them, so that it gives the children a much better chance of being able to apply them in their independent written work. And is also linked to our Vocabulary Ninja reward system, which we will go on to discuss further in the next section. The Vocabulary Ninja reward system, or Ninja Stickers as the children refer to them as, is a motivational tool that we use at Welton St Mary's to really encourage the use of high quality vocabulary from the children throughout the curriculum. Throughout each writing genre, the children will encounter many high-quality words and phrases in the vocabulary lesson, as well as some model text for shared write and when they're planning, and it's up to the children to use as many of these words and phrases in their independent writing to earn the best Ninja Sticker that they can. As you can see, there are 6 different types of Ninja Sticker available that range all the way from Grasshopper up to a Grandmaster, and the children will receive one of these stickers based on the quality of the words and phrases used in their text. In order for the words to count, they must be used in the right context, they must be spelled correctly and in a sentence that makes sense, and the more that they use, the better chance that they've got of receiving the coveted Grandmaster Ninja sticker. Based on the bit of writing that the children produce, they might get a different ninja sticker each time. So you might get a samurai for one piece, a shinobi for another piece, and a grandmaster for a different one. But it is all linked to the amount of high quality vocabulary that we can see in the text. And the children really enjoy this when they're opening up their publishing book and looking at that ninja sticker that they've got and celebrating all of the success that they've had with their vocabulary. The second stage of a writing cycle is the model text lesson. This is where the children are exposed to a high quality model text that links to the genre that they are writing in. Sometimes this is referred to as a WAGL, which stands for What a Good One Looks Like. Now this high quality example won't be exactly the same as what we're asking the children to produce, but it will be from the same genre. So if we were writing a setting description, we would show them a model text based on a setting description, but it will be a different setting to what we want the children to write about, so they can't simply just copy. But what we are doing is exposing them to a high quality example that we are going to try and replicate in our own writing. Now the purpose of this model text is to give the children the opportunity to investigate this with their teacher. So we're going to be doing all sorts of things with this model text. We might identify particular spelling, punctuation and grammar features that have been used that we want to try and use in our own piece of writing. We would look at the way that the text has been structured so we can emulate that in our writing. We'd look at the tone that's been used. Is it formal or is it informal? We would identify the audience. So who has this been written for and the purpose, why has this been written, and crucially we're going to be looking at the deliberate moves made by the author and the impact that they are having on us as the reader, because ultimately we want the children to produce something similar when it comes to their own piece of writing. Now as the children move through the school, these will increase in complexity. They will never be beyond them. We'd kind of be going for that Goldilocks approach, so something that's just right, where we can really look at this high quality example and think, right, what has been done by the author? How can we emulate that in our own writing? And then we go on to practice that together. So we're looking at this high quality model text to be exposed to all of those high quality moves that the author has made before we can then start to think about how we as writers can do this ourselves. The third stage of the writing cycle is when we start to think about spelling, punctuation and grammar skills. So within each genre, certain SPAG skills will be taught, and all of these skills link to the genre. So if we were writing a setting description, for example, what skills are we most likely to use? Let's teach those. And they are all dictated by the primary national curriculum. So the aim is to teach these skills to the children so that they can use them in their independent writing. This is something that we need to consider when we are assessing children's writing ability. So the children using these skills is absolutely crucial when it comes to their independent work. Now, not every single skill will be taught for each piece of writing. Some skills won't apply and there simply isn't time either. However, within each year group, we are making sure that we are teaching the skills that are relevant to that year group, but also going back to the ones that have previously been taught and rehearsing them as well. So there might be a SPAG skills lesson in year 4, for example, that links to something that the children have learned in year 2, but is relevant to that genre. So we need to make sure that as well as introducing all of the new skills that we need to, as dictated by the national curriculum, we are giving the children the opportunity to practice those that they've already learnt. As the children progress through school, these skills will become more complex, and as I've previously mentioned, previous year group skills will be recalled throughout their English lessons. So they'll get that exposure to the new, trickier skills, which might take more than one lesson, as well as rehearsing skills that they know about already, but they need for this particular piece of writing. In years 2 to 5, these skills are rehearsed in their active English lessons. So before their English lesson, the children will have an active English lesson, which again gives them further opportunity to practice those skills that they've already been taught and apply them to a sentence that they might be able to use in their own writing. The next stage in the writing cycle is the shared write, where the children and their teacher work together as a team to complete some writing together based on the model text. So the shared write works just like a practice before the children can start to think about planning and producing their own piece of independent writing. Earlier on in this video, we mentioned how writing is very complex and it's linked to a complex game of chess with lots and lots of different moves. With the shared write, we are showing the children how to make the deliberate moves that a writer needs to be able to produce a successful piece of writing. So we're working together to link back to the model text, to think about what we've learned in our SPAG lessons and our vocabulary lessons, and putting all of these things together to show the children how to produce a certain piece of writing. Because the moves that we would need to make between different genres are very, very different. So we would make different sentence, words and phrase choices in a persuasive letter than we would do in a character description. And the shared write gives us a really good opportunity to work as a team and to show the children how to make these moves for themselves. So this involves a lot of back and forth between the teacher and the children, and we're all working together to produce all of or part of a piece of writing to prepare themselves to move towards that independence. The words from the vocabulary lesson and the skills from the SPAG lessons will be showcased here. So we'd show the children how to use certain words in certain places or how to fit certain skills into different types of sentences. But what's really important to note here is that the children don't simply copy what the teacher has written. Each child will produce their own version of the same thing. So the sentence will say the same thing, but what the teacher produces and what the children produce will be completely different. And research indicates that this step is crucial, absolutely crucial in the children's writing development and their confidence as a writer. Following the shared write, we move on to the planning and the independent write stage of the writing cycle. As you can see illustrated with the pictures on the right hand side, up until now we've held the children's hand quite tightly based on what we've been doing in our writing lessons. When we hit this stage, we start to very slowly let go. So this is the part where the children need to use all of the things that we've learned in the previous parts of the writing cycle and then apply it to their own writing. However, if there are some children who aren't quite ready for this yet, we'd keep hold of their hand just for now until they are ready to work on their own. So the planning stage is absolutely crucial. We've often found with children who don't plan their writing, or when we don't plan, writing often loses coherence and it doesn't produce the best quality piece of writing that we could have. So it is so important that the children are given the opportunity to plan. When they do that, they are planning words, ideas, phrases, sentences that they might use in their independent writing. This could take place over consecutive lessons, so a few planning lessons in a row, or it could be done in small chunks over longer, complex pieces of written work. When the children have planned, it is up to them to then produce their own piece of independent writing. Whatever the children produce, they receive regular written and verbal feedback from their teacher to help them produce the best piece of writing that they are capable of. So whenever the children have written, the teacher will have a look at it, either talk to them verbally or leave some written feedback that will give them an idea of what they might need to do to improve or enhance their writing. So although we're steering them towards things that they might need to improve or change, again we need to bear that word independent in mind, and it is up to the children then to take that feedback on board and make any changes that they see fit to improve the quality of their overall written work. The final stage of the writing cycle is the editing and publishing stage. As mentioned previously, throughout their writing, the children will receive regular written and verbal feedback from their teacher, and time is always planned in to give the children the opportunity to respond to any feedback they have been given. This feedback might be asking the children to look back at things that need changing for accuracy, for example spellings and handwriting, checking their sentences for sense, or maybe adding something into their writing to take the reader deeper, to give them a little bit more information to really enhance what they are doing. Now, any feedback that the children are given is used as a guide to help them make informed improvements to their work, but it doesn't dictate what they need to do. There still needs to be that element of independence here. When the children are happy that their work has been fully edited, they then publish their writing into their publishing book. And this is almost their best piece of writing. This publishing book follows the children all the way from year 2 to year 6, which provides a really nice chronology of what the children have produced all the way from Key Stage 1 to Upper Key Stage 2. And when their published work is completed, the children will receive a Ninja sticker based on the quality of their vocabulary, as well as feedback on the successes of their writing and any next steps that they need. As well as using the writing cycle to teach our writing and our English lessons at Welton St Mary's, we also use a range of other approaches to support writing development throughout the school. In early years and foundation stage, the children will begin their journey using the Read, Write, Ink phonics program to teach them the fundamentals of reading, writing and phonics. When the children have completed the Read, Write, Ink program, which could be as early as year 1 for some of our children, they would then move on to active English before their English lessons to rehearse grammar skills that they have been taught. And from year 2, when the children have passed their phonics screen, they would move on to active spelling to practice and learn how to spell words based on the year group related content. The diagram on this page shows the writing journey that children will make as they move through the school at Welton St Mary's. If we start at the bottom in the green circle, in EYFS and Key Stage 1, the children begin that journey using the Read, Write, Ink phonics program and Get Writing. There are also wider curriculum writing opportunities that will be planned in to support the skills that they learn in their Get Writing lessons in the wider curriculum. In year 1 and year 2, after the children have completed the Read, Write, Ink program, they move on to active English and then English lessons that follow the writing cycle. Children will be gradually introduced to this approach as and when they finish Read, Write, Ink. And from year 2, the children will be taught year group spelling rules from the primary national curriculum using the active spelling program. In Key Stage 2, the active English into English approach is followed from year 3 to year 5. Year 6, their teaching curriculum is based on the end of Key Stage 2 expectations and the national curriculum, still following the writing cycle. For our learners who are finding their writing particularly tricky, from year 5, the children will be working on a program called Fresh Start, which is an extension of the Read, Write, Ink phonics scheme, as well as continuing the active spelling approach, so teaching spelling rules based on the national curriculum all the way up to the end of year 6. If you would like any extra information about the content of our English teaching, our English curriculum is available on the Welton St Mary's School website. If you click on the key information banner at the top and head to the curriculum section and scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, you will find the writing icon. And over the next parts of this video, we'll explore what you can find in that document. The genre map section of the English curriculum shows you what types of writing your child will produce in each year group at Welton St Mary's. If it's in blue, that is writing to entertain. If it is a genre in green, that is writing to inform. Yellow is persuasion and pink is discussion. So if there is a tick in the box under your child's year group, that is a genre of writing that they will produce in that year group. You will notice that some sections are highlighted in red, and that is purely because that genre of writing is not relevant to that year group. The genre coverage section of the website is very similar to what we saw on the previous slide. However, all this one does is show what is being taught and when. So for example, we can see in year 2, a narrative text will be taught in autumn 1 and summer 1. We also have an overview for writing purposes on our English curriculum, which goes into a little bit more detail about what the children will be writing. Again, we can see the same colours have been used to say whether each piece of writing is done to entertain, inform, persuade or discuss. And if we look at year 2 for an example, when they are writing to inform, we can see that across the year they're going to be writing a diary entry based on Thomas Fariner, a recount about the way back home, a biography based on Neil Armstrong, a letter writing to Father Christmas, and some instructions for making George's marvellous medicine. The English curriculum also provides information about what will be written, read and watched in each year group. For the example that we can see here for year 4, the top row shows what will be written across the school year. Below that we can see a list of core texts that will either be read to support the writing or in guided reading lessons in that year group. And below that we've got some films that could be watched to support the children's writing. This is available on the English curriculum for every year group, all the way from early years foundation stage up to year 6. So as well as working hard at school to develop children's writing skills, there's loads we can be doing at home to further support our children with their writing ability. Top of that list is reading. Not just listening to the children read, reading to your child and reading with your child. We say it at school all the time, the more you read, the better your writing will be, because they're reading the high quality vocabulary. They're being exposed to different sentence types. They're looking at different styles of writing from different authors. So the more reading to your children and with your children that you can do at home, the better it will benefit their writing. And as well as reading with them, talking about what they're reading as well, talking about different books. Are you enjoying it? Which authors do you like? What are you reading? Conversations around books and reading at home, again, really powerful, not just to support reading, but to support their writing ability as well. And when it comes to reading, it doesn't have to be a novel all the time. It could be a newspaper, it could be a magazine, internet articles, comic books, the back of a cereal box while you're eating your breakfast. Any sort of reading at home will really encourage and support their writing at school. Dialogue, super important. Talking to your children, having those conversations at home, in the car, wherever. Children need to be able to talk it before they can write it, and having those high quality conversations with your children will only benefit not just their reading ability but their writing ability too. And part of that could be playing word games, silly games like Taboo, where you have to try and describe something without using banned words. One word story or one sentence story, where you make up a silly story, one word or one sentence at a time. Stuff like that is really brilliant to help children not just develop their writing ability, but to get excited about their writing as well. Encouraging writing at home, really important. The children could be encouraged to write short stories or poems. They could try and write in the style of something that you've read or a particular author. They might keep a journal or a diary, or if they're into sports, they could write match reports for sporting events. They could review a concert that they've seen. Even if they're saying it and not writing it down initially, really helpful. And it doesn't have to be long. Short sprints of writing are really useful to practice and to rehearse the sorts of skills that we want them to use at school. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be messy. Make it fun. If you go to the beach, do some writing in the sand. Get a stick and write in the mud. Any sort of thing that we can do at home to support our children's writing is really beneficial. And that brings us to the end. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Hopefully it's helped you to get a better understanding of how and why we teach writing in the way that we do at Welton St Mary's, as well as a couple of useful things that you might want to try at home with your children. As always, if you have any questions about anything that you've heard or read, please feel free to get in touch with the school. We are more than happy to get back to you as soon as we possibly can. But thank you again, and hopefully this video has proved useful.